You're listening to the Aftergrad podcast. I'm Robert Kane.
And I'm Victoria, and we are your fellow Aftergrads trying to find clarity and security in this post-grad moment.
On the show, we discuss the societal pressures that stand to mold us into inauthentic versions of ourselves while striving to make our dreams a reality.
We welcome you on this journey as we try to navigate pandemic, bills, careers, and who knows what else.
But today, we wanted to have a conversation about the importance of having a healthy routine and schedule, both for when we might be in academic situations, but also when we're making the transition from academia, university settings, to being aftergrads like we are right now.
Exactly. We now have so much time on our hands.
Right.
It feels like we have a lot of time on our hands, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
It's an advantage. However, we still need to use it wisely before we start to enter that new stage of life where time is becoming, or seemingly becoming, short. And actually, life is always short.
It is.
So we have to live it to the fullest,
Mm-hmm.
and we should use it, therefore, using time wisely.
Right, and I think there's various things that can pass us by. We might, when we're in the university setting, we've always said on the show how there's the schedules, there's the assignments,
Yes.
there's the routines that you even get into, but they're kind of structured and preordained already for you. But then when you graduate, or just when you are adulting in its finest, right? Then there's more opportunities to insert yourself into the routine, but then you also don't want to be prey to all of the many distractions that can take place. So it's important for us as aftergrads to isolate and identify ways for us to create our own individualized routines, because there's so much noise out there that's telling us what we should be doing, how to stay healthy, but ultimately it's about how we can be healthy for ourselves, and that takes many different forms. I know you are always talking about the many different ways you create a healthy lifestyle for yourself.
I think that's what's so overwhelming specifically about the aftergrad moment is, like you were saying, we have our schedules, we have our things that we do on campus, our extracurriculars and stuff, and then it's sleep, right? And now there's no one knocking at your door saying you have to be here. There's no one you have to report to. Maybe there is someone you have to report to now, but it's only typically from 9 to 5.
Right.
And then what do you do on the weekends, or like what are you doing outside of that to put yourself out there, yada yada, and then to keep yourself healthy.
Exactly.
It's a lot. It's a lot to wrap your brain around, and there's so many little parts of yourself that you have to tend to now, and then you're realizing now that you're at this new age as well, health doesn't always stay at the tip top.
Right, because it'll get pushed to the wayside very quickly with all the other responsibilities and tasks.
And if you don't have any, like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Discipline.
I guess discipline. Is it discipline? Yeah,
that's part of it.
On like yourself. Yeah, you can easily fall into someone else's time flow.
Part of it as well is the need to prioritize as well. For me, I know when there's many different things that I think I do to try and keep a routine. I'm a very routine oriented person. I definitely like to get into a workflow so that I can kind of manage myself on autopilot. I think that's when I really am the most productive. But then there's also the argument too, should we be striving for constant productivity? Rest is important as well, and I know that we talk about that every now and then on the show too. So I think finding ways to prioritize, what does Robert, what does Victoria, what does any fellow aftergrad need to feel their most productive, but also just to feel at peace when we're moving through life.
That one, it's prioritized, but I also want to say customize as well, because customize, because even when we first got here, we were doing a lot of things on the same pattern. Of course, we're building this platform together and so forth, and so a lot of the things like lined up naturally, which was cool. However, we realized as we probably about 3 months in that there were some things that worked better for you and some things that worked better for me. I'll also say, YouTube is trending right now. I don't know if it's my algorithm or not, but I'm getting what I do in my life, what I do in a daily,
so many of those videos. 7
a.m. routine. Those are the ones that are going viral on TikTok and stuff, where you just watch a person like silently go about their day, and you think that's the type of day yours should be looking like.
I know.
So it's priority, and then it's also customizing what works for you.
What works for you, that's the key.
Yeah, I believe in like using them to an extent as like a guideline.
Yes.
But then as you're using it, as you're going through the emotion of it, like feel yourself, like, am I feeling this? Am I actually waking up at 5 a.m.?
That part.
It's not
realistic for everybody, and that might not be the way for you to lock into what your truest, most productive, most relaxed self can be, because those videos are highly curated.
Exactly, and that might not even be for your current season as well. Like, like you said, the 5 a.m. thing, it's not for everyone, and for me, I'm a 5 a.m. gal.
We have been trying to incorporate that.
But I now can say confidently that I'm not always a 5 a.m. person. It's definitely depends on the season. Sometimes I'm definitely prioritizing rest. And so I want to wake up when my body naturally wakes up. And hopefully I get to the point where I can have a career in which I can do so. But then I know there's seasons, even without the pressure of a job or, you know, someone saying you have to be up at 5 a.m., where I feel like I need to be at 5 a.m. because I'm trying to learn something new and I need a little bit more time in my day. So being okay with your routine changing too.
That was just my getting to that period. Come on, bring
you can customize, but it's not the same routine for every place you go, every stage you're in. It always is changing, and we're about to, you know, go through some new changes ourselves, and
that
so
too. So you have to be comfortable with your schedule, your routine changing, because yes, as you were about to get into, we have shared on the show that our lease here in DC is coming to a close, and we're in the process of trying to figure out where we're going to be moving next. And I guess it's both a statement and a question for myself. I struggle when my schedule changes because for me, one of the things that brings me lots of peace is working out. I ran cross country back in high school and I still to this day love to get a good run in, putting that heartbeat really, really high. That just relaxes me after I finish out the workout. But lately I haven't been going to the gym as much as I would like to. And sometimes I'll be hard on myself because I know that that's an important part of my routine. But at the same time, finding grace within myself, knowing that there are just so many changes happening in life right now as an Aftergrad, and that's totally fine. How do you work through that yourself when you have a routine and you get off track and you know it? What's that inner dialogue for you?
No, I'm constantly trying to, my new like fitness goal is to be adaptable, which is such a hard thing to master, like knowing what your body needs at a certain given moment. That's a new level of like awareness of yourself and of your body and what your body needs, because it's so easy just to stick to one routine, right? But when your body starts to feel tired, like what do you do in those moments? Do you know like what can still make you have that feeling? You know how you said after you run you feel released, right? What did you say you feel? You feel relaxed. Or like mental clarity, right?
I feel focused on a new level. Yeah,
it's like figuring out other ways you can get that without necessarily putting your body through all of that running. So honestly, now I think both of us are kind of getting into it, but like working out wise, because that's a great pinpoint to start. That working out kind of is the center of my schedules. But in terms of trying to figure out how to be adaptable, it's always asking myself, is there a new skill fitness-wise that I want to learn, or is just experimenting? I feel like experimenting has definitely led me into more knowledge as to other things I can do that can adapt to wherever situation I'm in. So now I know if I travel, because I love traveling, right? I feel some type of way when I hit the ground. It would be very unrealistic of myself to tell myself that I'm going to go to the gym while I'm vacationing. However, I do know I still love walking, and I love boxing. I like to do like Pilates. I have that on my app on my phones for free, right? So it's like kind of just experimenting, but that makes you have to get out of your routine. And you have to also be kind to yourself. I think that's the biggest thing for me to answer your question. On being how am I learning how to be adaptable is being kind to myself and telling myself that it's okay and that you are human, and like right now you don't want to run, but you do want to feel that feeling you feel after running, so why don't we go for a walk, or maybe I can journal, or you know what, I'm gonna force myself to get in bed and rest and watch a TV show.
Period. I love to cancel the plan. I love to cancel all of the going out and just sit in bed, watch a TV show, read a book.
Don't feel like, don't feel bad.
Because that's part of the process.
Right. So now when I see those YouTube videos pop up on my feed, like what I do 7 a.m. where I just skip over those, because I'm at a place now I know when it's time to grind and I know when it's time to get, relax into myself and very introspection type stuff. But I think we're coming out of the 5 a.m. schedule. So
we haven't really been committing to it as much as I would like to, and I think that's just part of the season that we're in, right? Because we locked into it. I'm okay with it. It's
because
totally
we got
fine.
a lot. I think we went hard. Kay and I went hard for a good 3 months straight. 3 months straight. Waking up at 5 a.m., going to bed at like 10 p.m. But in those 3 months, we completed so much. So now my body is like, I want to wake up naturally.
Right.
But it's waking up at like
rest.
7 naturally.
Waking up at 7, yeah,
So, like,
no, literally up at 7:30, having a sip of coffee, watching a YouTube video, reading, looking at the news, casual, right? So I think, again, it just goes back to the seasons. But the one thing that I really liked about what you were saying is being adaptable, right? Because I know for myself, I will have an inner dialogue sometimes where if I'm not stuck on the routine that I have laid out for myself, I will be very hard on myself. But I know that I like to work out. I know that I like to feel that particular type of way.
Right.
And sometimes, and especially in the past, but I've gotten better at it now, but I wouldn't do any type of physical activity if I couldn't do it in the way that I wanted to do it in my head. So if I couldn't lift the heavy weights like I like to, I wouldn't do anything. But now I'm at a point where, no, I know I like to work out and I like the way that I feel afterwards. So if I'm not going to make it to the gym, and sometimes I'm lazy, sometimes I really don't want to go to the gym. Our gym is actually pretty far from our place. And that sometimes, it pushes me to be like, you know what, I really don't even want to make that trek today.
Right.
Let me just go for a walk. I have a weighted vest that I use for when I'm doing any type of run or walk. I'll put that on, and that keeps me sane. And at least I did something in the moment to achieve a similar outcome.
Ooh, I want to hop on that.
Please
because
do.
I will be vulnerable in this state. Like, I gained a lot of weight coming out of college, right? And so I didn't feel like my normal self. I didn't feel like I was in my normal body. And so I knew I wanted to lose weight. However, when I hit the gym, like, I think when we first got here, I really did not just, like you were saying, I didn't want to go to the gym at all.
Yeah.
Because I hated that I couldn't do, like, the things that I used to do as an athlete. And so it was so flipping frustrating. So talk about learning how to be adaptable and forgiving myself and just saying, like, it's okay, baby steps right now in this season. And very incremental steps. And so, like, now I'm getting back and I'm feeling my, like, I'm sorry, I'm feeling myself.
Period.
I'm feeling
as
my
you
stride.
should. As we mentioned before, we love when the body is on and we're seeing the goals and the outcomes that we're working on.
Exactly, but having to love where I was at then as well definitely helps me get to where I am right now and still helping me. I still haven't reached my ultimate goal yet, but yeah, I think it's that one. It's that one. But I also want to say, back to being adaptable, the seasonal thing, our 5 a.m. routine. It was winter, so our days seemed like they were cutting short, right? This is just one example of, like, hearing yourself and knowing. I wanted to be in bed by like 7 because it was so dark here by 4.
Right, 4 or 5. That's when the sun was starting to set super early.
Yeah, the days were speeding by and I wasn't getting anything done. And I was like, I need more daytime where the sun is actually up because my body is going down. Yep. So that's when I feel like we were hitting up that season with the 5 a.m. Because when we started our day at 5 a.m., we were done with most of our stuff by like 3. Right. 3 or 4. And then when that sun was gone, it was like lights. It could be lights out. It could be chilling. It could be, okay, we doing us. But that's another thing. And so now we're coming out of the fall. Was that fall back?
That was fall and winter. Yeah, we're going into spring.
Yeah, so spring forward, the time shift. Now the days are longer. They feel longer again. Of course, we want to wake up a little slower and stuff like that. It's still 7 or 8, guys. We're not sleeping in.
Right. Yeah. We're still working.
We're still grinding out here. But that's like one out of many examples of, like, just adjusting and being okay with yourself and your time. Yeah. Now, for those of you, congratulations.
Yes.
Y'all about to graduate.
It's middle of May, right? Welcome to the Aftergrad community. Congratulations to the class of 2022, freshman Aftergrad. The School of Life. It does hit differently, but I hope you've been listening to all of our content so that you've been learning from our journey, from our mistakes that we've shared, from the successes. That's what this family and community is for.
What would you tell a newly grad right now about time and scheduling now that they have all this time on their hands?
I think on this platform we're always very strategic in the sense of wanting you to inform your schedule and inform your practice, whatever that looks like for yourself. So I think I would tell you, it's a great opportunity too. During the summer, I know a lot of people, you might want to go out, you want to travel, you want to have a good time. Please do. That's exciting. That's a part of the scheduling and the routining practice so that you feel the most rejuvenated and excited to live out the life. But I think having a discussion during a period in which most people are going to use that moment to try to celebrate, not saying that you shouldn't, but I know just reflecting on my time, especially as I was in university and then made the transition to the aftergrad life, I would always use moments of supposed downtime to try to schedule my life and to plan ahead, right? So again, during the summer, if you aren't graduating and you're not becoming an aftergrad just yet and you're still in university, during the summer, I think it's a perfect opportunity to plan ahead, to learn a new skill, to read a book, do something that you have never done before, to just continue developing yourself and learning, right? Because that's going to be an opportunity to get ahead. And especially when you're in school or you're in an academic setting, all of the other pressures and the assignments can kind of weigh you down, and you really don't get a chance to, I think in a previous episode you mentioned, hear your own thoughts and see through your own
in all
lens.
that celebration, you could really get clogged as to like, okay, what's next?
What's next, right? And you might get lost in the fray of it all. The moment might just pass you by. So I think finding a balance, my advice thus is find a happy balance of celebration, because it is an exciting moment. You did it. Yay. Wonderful. But also now the marathon begins, which is the marathon of life. And you need to make sure that you are able to find an apartment, find a job, whatever those next steps look like for you. What's that going to look like? So again, relish in the victory, but also take time to celebrate, but then also use the time to figure out what's next.
Right. My one little rule of thumb that I've always followed, because it's very helpful to know that you have to have something, lined up, right, and all this stuff, but it can get stressful, and it can get overwhelming. You can feel very overwhelmed. So I would always look at, like we said, School of Life. It's another form of education to me. It's
and I would argue the most important form of education. I would say the School of Life. The learnings from life, actually living and gaining the experience, is more important than anything you could be taught in a classroom setting. That's my personal thought on the matter.
Exactly. And I will drag a metaphor, and so I literally look at life as school. And so one thing in school, when you have your summertime, you have your celebration, right? But as you prepare for the next semester, you have to sign up for your classes. You have to know what classes you're going to take, right? And how it's going to fulfill that major or minor, right? So I don't look at it literally like that, but I ask myself, what are 3 things I want to focus on? What are 3 things that I know will help me develop in like these next stance of 4 years that are about to come? Where do I see myself in the next 4 years? And what 3 things do I feel like I need to fulfill that, right? And then I ask myself the 4th thing, what's an extracurricular activity? And that is the balance. That, for me, that's how I balance everything. What's the thing that's like, it's not really in line with who I want to be. It's not that serious, but it's an area that I want to venture into because it's kind of new and it's, kind of off the grid. So that's the 4. And then the 5th is the work study. What's the work study? So what's the job that's going to be willing in that income? When I look at it like that, then that starts to, I can look at it like school, because I've been in school for so long. Right. So I got.
And this is really the first chance to be outside of that environment, unless you're going to grad school. Congratulations there or whatever. But if you're not,
exactly. If you're really still like having a hard time trying to find that balance, just give yourself those 5 things and start there, and then start to see how those play in your day. I'm not saying give yourself class time, right? Now you have to experiment. Like we said, you have to know yourself, be adaptable, not following too many people's schedules online, right? Know what your fitness goals are, know what your mental goals are, and so forth. And then experiment with your day. Start waking up at this time. How did I feel? Waking up at that time. How did I feel? Was I able to get in those 5 things that I have to get in? Was I able to feel good, rejuvenated for the next day so I can be just as productive as the day before? I did not feel that great this day. Why didn't I? Oh, well, I ate junk food. Okay, well, I have been kind of eating junk food throughout college, but maybe I could switch it up now. So I think my advice would start, if you have no idea what to do to find that balance, to find what's next and all that stuff, start there. Ask yourself, what are your 3 courses? And I don't know if your school did this, but if I signed up for way too many courses, they charge you. I charge like, if you're like, I got more than 3 things, that's a charge. Like, because if you have too much, if you think 3 is too little, you'll disperse yourself way too much and you won't be productive at all. Right. Like, it's not going to be I promise you. So just tell yourself, this is for this semester and I will take another class next semester. Don't overfill or overflow yourself, especially if you're a perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist, and so when I have too much on my plate, I will end up being so stagnant in all of my progress.
And this process is never ending too. I think obviously if you are a class of 2022 and you're graduating from any type of institution right now, this definitely applies. But I think also having the knowledge that this is a journey that seemingly never ends. I mean, we're still constantly having this dialogue. And I think scheduling that type of time to be with yourself. I know you've journaled and you've mentioned that in the past about how that helps you, whatever that looks like for yourself. If you just like having conversations with yourself, I know I talk to myself quite often, and you can
it's
literally,
normal.
it's normal.
Yeah, don't feel weird.
Don't feel weird. No, literally pop a squat and just have a full-fledged conversation with yourself. It works for me. No, I will literally be in full conversation with myself. I'm being so serious. And that's genuinely my way to imagine another person, me, have a conversation and give feedback to myself so that I can check in. It's kind of like if you're in a job and you're getting feedback from your boss, or you have a best friend, i.e. Victoria for me, and I just need to literally be like, what's good? How's the performance? Is it good, poor, bad? What can I improve? Be so serious with yourself about that.
Yourself and your circle.
And your circle.
Oh, a strong circle.
A strong circle.
That eats.
That eats. That will really elevate you. Because those you need the people that can be honest with you and who won't sugarcoat and just be upfront and be like, you know what? That's not it. I promise that's not going to get you to where you're going. That's that's not giving, right? So you can do better.
Right.
Well, I love what you're doing. You also want the people just to be real, right? I think that's all we can ever ask for.
Exactly. And then for those, now we got, those are for the people who are entering. Welcome. But for those who we are currently in this moment right now and we want to add something new to the table, we want to venture into something different. You probably already kind of have your schedule and things that are already pre-existing. But now as you look at it, like what I would see, what needs to be tailored, what needs to be taken off so that something can be added on.
Right.
Just make sure that you still have that balance in your life where you're down to 3 major things, one or two extracurricular activities, and then that job source, right? That thing that keeps you alive, literally.
I really literally what keeps you alive. I really want to reiterate that because I'm now reflecting on my time in university, and goodness, the way in which people just constantly wanted to be doing so much. It was just a trend to say that, I work at 5 organizations, I do research with this professor, I'm interning at 2 companies. The universe wouldn't even allow for that to physically, within a right amount of time, take place. And yet, we're still trying to create this persona, and I think that it's a consequence of hustle culture, which there's positives to that and negatives, and we can go into that as well. So, again, I just urge Aftergrads to don't spread yourself thin. Just really try to see what is going to help you get to that next level, or do you even want to do it? Is it going to work for you passionately wise? Do you want to be there? Because if the answer is no, just please cut it. Please cut it for yourself, for your mental health, for everything else that you want to work towards in the future. It's just going to allow you to get there.
It gives you
more freedom.
More freedom to make more strides in what truly matters for you. So, and we're about to enter our shifts as well, and you'll see it. You'll keep up. You see it.
You see it.
But, so I don't know how it's been 8 months.
8 months going on. It's literally been a full academic year. I mean, we got here in September, early September, and now we're leaving.
It was about to be
May.
summertime. Yeah. So talk about summertime. I've always seen summertime as a time to get ahead. Now, while everybody else is partying, that's just me. I think you
express that before. No, that's 100% how I operated. I mean, I would be in university, right? And I would just be waiting. And, there were moments where I could create my own time. I think that's also where we were inserting this idea of waking up earlier. If you need more time, try to create it in whatever way works for you. Maybe that means sleeping less hours, trying to figure out if your body will allow you to do that. Some people need 8 hours of sleep. Totally cool. But in specific to what you're talking about with regards to when I'm on university and the way that I structure the summertime, it's just an opportunity to have more time. And as we've talked about, time is more valuable than money will ever be. And I genuinely believe that. So during the summer, I would be doing some certificates. I would sometimes, and most times, have an internship that I'd be working at. But at the same time, I was teaching myself a new skill. For me in my industry, like the Adobe software, it's super important for me to know that I would be teaching myself Photoshop, Lightroom, Adobe Bridge, Adobe Audition, just all these different skills that I wanted to pick up and learn. And it wasn't because of any other reason other than the fact that I wanted to learn it for myself. And it made me happy because I knew that it would be aiding me for when I graduated in my professional pursuits.
So now that you're in a time where there's typically, like mentally we think, right, we see life moving similar to how school is laid out. But there's no distinction between summer and
right.
like semester time.
Exactly.
There really isn't.
There isn't.
So now like you're possibly in a job that's constant, or you're or you're currently in like freelancing positions that have to remain, and there's no longer a time to just really break.
Right.
So how do you think this new summer, this is our first summer as Aftergrads. So
literally.
how do you think this is going to feel now?
That's a good question.
I don't think it's going to feel different.
I don't think it'll feel different.
Which is messed up. It just feels like it's just going to be working.
Right. There's still work to do.
Yeah.
There's always something to do. And I mean, that applies when you're in an academic setting. That applies definitely now. We've experienced it as Aftergrads. This will be our first summer. But like you, I don't think
it's less about getting ahead.
It's less about getting ahead because there's constantly the time that everyone is on. As when you're in a university, again, we've said that there's the structured time, right? There's a time to work, there's a time to sleep, there's a time to go to class, there's a time to eat, there's a time, relatively speaking, to socialize. There's a time for summer break. Everyone has the same summer break. But now, as we talk about often, there's a balance that you have to create consistently throughout the entirety of your life.
No, you hit what? Okay.
Yeah, please, add on.
Yeah, that was the word that was hitting my head. I think the summer of Aftergrad life it's less about getting ahead now, and it's more about consistency. I think that's the biggest shift that can help you get ahead in the real world life while managing all of the things that we have to juggle now. It's about who stays consistent with what they're about and what they're doing. Because before, yes, you're right. Like, same here. You're in school, everyone's out of school, it's like recess time, everybody's playing, and then me, I was reading, or I was still having a fun time. Don't get me wrong, I still had my hot girl summer, but I was very mindful that this was a great time to take advantage of the time that I have to stay in communication with teachers, mentors, and so forth like that, to cook up the things that I wanted to do for the fall. And so we don't have that anymore. However, I do know I want this summer to stay consistent. I don't want there to be a slow down or a speed up. I just want it to stay in motion. Stay in motion and keep my heart there, and make sure my passion and that I'm healthy in the right way.
Of course.
And of course, I'm going to still take a break here and there. I'm going to try to catch the flight.
Of course, catch a flight or two, Go to, a foreign place or somewhere domestically, Again, whatever rest looks like for you, always incorporating it.
And that's consistent too. Like,
of course,
we don't have to wait till summertime anymore. I want to go to Dubai in the winter.
Whenever I can.
Let's go.
Any moment to travel, of course, as we've always expressed here. But I think, in terms of the scheduling and the balanced lifestyle too, it does seem like we're definitely not promoting the negative consequences of hustle culture, but being an Aftergrad, we do have to hustle, right? That's a part of it, and that's a part of being any type of professional, right? But I recently read an article about how hustle culture obviously has negative consequences for us. We're living in a capitalistic society.
Yeah, I know, because we're basically saying work.
Work. Get your coin, honey. Okay, however you can, whichever way works for you. From this conversation, it sounds like, we're talking about the balanced lifestyle. We're trying to be healthy, structuring our time, creating more time for ourselves. And that all kind of goes under this umbrella of hustle culture, right? And of course, we are by no means promoting the negative consequences or connotations of hustle culture, but as Aftergrads, we do have to work. As professionals and people that want to elevate and go far, we do have to work hard, and that goes under the umbrella of hustle culture.
So now we're going to get into some post thoughts. Post thoughts is basically our thoughts after post graduation. Got it? Get it? Good.
Yep.
But it's also about, we're reviewing posts from either bloggers or reporters or, just people on Twitter, Instagram, things that we naturally come across that really spark our, pique our interest to talk about and to further elaborate on, that we feel like the Aftergrad podcast or the Aftergrad crew can benefit from hearing more about our personal opinion on it as we go through the motions that pertain to the Aftergrad moment.
Period. Yeah, that's literally it. Just an opportunity for us to reflect on what we're seeing. As you always know, we're talking about what we're reading, what we're watching, what we're listening to. So it's just an opportunity for us to kind of insert another person's perspective while we have a chance to argue with it, agree with it, dissect it. And hopefully it'll just be an opportunity for us to learn and to hear another piece of popular culture, an alternative thought, viewpoint. So with that, let's get into post thoughts. I actually recently read an article from ID Magazine, and I don't know the person who wrote it, but basically they were advocating for us ridding ourselves of this side hustle concept, right? And I was reading it, and this individual was basically making a case for all of the capitalistic reasons that harm us, right? I understand that hustle culture creates situations where we are overworked and underpaid, and of course we want to rid ourselves of that. And I think that's ultimately what this person was trying to say, is that the side hustle is never going to save us. It's never going to liberate us, individually speaking or collectively speaking, because it only leads to the negative outcomes that we stress continuously. And I kind of want to push back against the person that was writing this, because as we're sitting here having a conversation about creating a schedule and creating a lifestyle that is individualized, customized is the word that you used earlier, and I love that, and individual to you and what you want to see for yourself, I don't want to discount the positive outcomes that side hustles have created for other people to live out their passions and to...
Just for some clarity, where was he or she referring, or they...
She, yeah.
Was she referring to, like, finding the side hustles of, like, side businesses? Or side hustles, like, we're working on this simultaneously, or like studying this while studying that, while working here. She
was defining side hustles as anything that is in addition to your 9 to 5. And I think structurally she was making the argument from a person who is working at a full-time job who has a side business, right? And didn't really give specifications on that, other than the fact that this is someone who has a full-time position, but on the side is trying to turn a side hustle into a full-time business so that they can eventually leave their corporate position, right? Or anything that's bringing some type of revenue on the side that they hope to build into an empire.
Right.
And ultimately, the end argument from this piece was that we need to stop glorifying this side hustle empire, right?
Right.
And please elaborate. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so you know me. First thing I think of is economics. So if anything is flooded, the more there is, the less demand there is for it. The more flooded it becomes, the less value it has. So in some sense, I do agree. Like, there's a lot of side businesses happening, especially right now, especially when we hit like COVID, right? There was a really up spike in people, you know, starting their own little side gigs, side hustles, and then also realizing in their workspace that it no longer serves them, which I love that come up, right? However, I think my only argument is against her is that side hustles are still very much so relevant if the person's side hustle is adding actual value to the market and authenticity or like uniqueness, something that's cutting edge. Like, let's get down to the basics of business, right? When you are presenting yourself in front of investors, they are looking for something, a hole in the market. They're looking for a solution to a problem, or they're looking for education to something that people tend to be ignorant about, right? And if your business or side hustle does not meet those, or any of those, does not tick off any of them, but they're just a copy of somebody else's, which we are really seeing, especially in the TikTok culture of, like, I saw like these keychains of this chick. She would put on the key ring like a maze and a taser and then an ID holder, and there was like 50 other girls who were doing the exact same thing, and they were making quick, good money.
Right.
And it, like, basically drop shipment, we see that a lot of people making the same exact stuff. And so also, this is triggering for me because my research that I did in college on IP regimes in China and like the mass production of like cheaper goods, right? That's kind of what's happening, which is very interesting now that I'm thinking about it out loud. It's kind of happening in the US right now. It's like there's a lot of stuff flooded of the same stuff. And so when that's happening, it just becomes less authentic, and it becomes like, you know, really hard to sift through like the good stuff. And so at the end of the day, not a lot of people are actually going to see long-term benefits. Like, none of this stuff is going to become empire worthy if we're talking facts. So from that standpoint, I get where she's saying. However, no, I stand for side hustles. And for people, if you believe you have something unique to bring to the table that no one has tapped into yet, then keep that side hustle up. And of course, it's going to take time. It's just, don't look for quick
quick turnover opportunities
exactly.
that are inauthentic to you, and you're just trying to do a cash grab.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to say.
Then you're the you're the hamster on the wheel going in circles, thinking that you're going to be making a generational wealth off of like little itty bitty trinkets, and
that again feeds into this notion of the American dream being sold to us one way, but in actuality, us living it out in a totally different way.
Exactly.
And I think I want to give grace. I want to at least have the possibility that I misunderstood the article, right? At least in a small way, because I do see the different ways that this argument could be articulated.
Sure.
So for me, again, if this article is saying in side hustles, they're not going to get you anywhere just outright, I disagree, and that's why I wanted to raise it. But then, as I mentioned...
I don't even think you're looking at it in a bad perspective. I think I'm kind of judging her as a writer. She should have possibly been more specific in what she meant in like a side hustle. Because if she's also saying like, I'm a part of a marginalized group, right? And if there's a woman who's in a certain position and she's lacking seeing people like her, and so she wants to start a foundation to raise women or girls that look like her to know more about this industry, right? And that's considered her side hustle, but that's her value that she's given to the world, right? Like you can, there's so many ways we could turn on this. So I think it was her lack of being specific as what she meant by a side hustle. Because if she meant it in terms of like drop shipment, I kind of agree with you, sis. Because there's a lot of stuff that's coming out that I'm like, oh my god, you were just piggybacking off of this person and that person, and it's just not going to go that far.
Yeah. So the article is titled "We need to let go of the side hustle. Working harder and longer has never been able to save us, so it's just time to reject the grind set." And it's written by a person of the name Eve Livingston.
Let me look up her race, please.
Yeah, I want to do a full
because
profile.
Because that has a lot to do with it as well. Aftergrads, we are like probably coming out one of the most financially, mentally, and like career-wise most in shock, like coming out, right? So all we can do is when we hit that water, we trying to paddle as much as we can. So of course we're hustling.
Of course, we don't have a choice because we're trying to figure out what sticks.
We're trying to figure out where we at.
We're trying to test everything. Just throw anything and see what works.
Exactly. So to some degree, I disagree.
Yeah, I'm reading. Okay. So Eve Livingston is a person from the UK, is a UK-based freelance journalist, writer, and is white or white passing from the UK. I'm trying, I would love to get an ethnic background moment.
I would love an ethnic background because a statement like that, I can only imagine, I'm sorry, but I can only imagine someone who's not from a marginalized group say something like that. Because
you don't want to assume anything about this individual's background.
I don't.
But continue.
However, this can also get down to the demographics of like your upbringing or your background. We can just take away the ethnicity part, right? But like, let's say she was in a more privileged, moment, so she could sit back and observe this what she sees, this bubble of people who are hustling. Right. That was me. That was me in the work study. Yes, 3 work studies. Yeah, that was me.
Of
also
course.
Serving on the side.
Yeah.
And you can easily observe from afar and be like, aren't y'all doing too much? Aren't y'all stressing yourself out? And isn't this leading to mental health issues and physical issues later on, and you putting yourself first, having problems with that, having trauma? Of course we are all struggling through that as for being hustlers, but that's
the
why
other side of the coin.
Exactly, and that's why on the Aftergrad podcast we are also we're preaching the hustle, but we're also preaching in the midst of the hustle us finding our balance and our center so that we can go about this in a healthy manner, because the hustle can be toxic.
Yeah, that's the concept of toxic productivity. Absolutely.
I will admit that.
And
but where I come
Eve
from,
mentions that in the article, of course.
And
don't want to discount.
And she probably observed that. And so she's like, well, this is going to be bad for the people.
Right.
But as a person that is part of the hustle community, I just want to say, there's no other way out for me.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry, but like, if I decide not to hustle, if I decide not to do what God told me to do in this very moment, to get to where I want to go, I'm not going to get what I want and what I deserve from this world. Period.
End of story.
So
there's nothing more to elaborate.
Respect Miss Eve.
Absolutely.
But you don't I don't think you have
so
the right to
and
say
again,
so.
I don't even right, and that was the only thing that I was disagreeing with in this post because again, all the other consequences of capitalism, they're front and center. We understand, we get it, but at the end of the day, it's what we've got.
It's like no.
It's what we've
like,
got.
This is the cards that we've been
It's what
dealt.
we've got.
Right.
So I'm not just gonna sit by and be like, oh, capitalism. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? No, I have to win in some way. Like, am I not supposed to?
Right.
Again. Again, I get it. I understand, and I want to respect the argument that was made by Eve.
She was trying to help the people.
Yeah, and it is a helpful argument. For me, it's been overdone. You know, I get it. Let's figure out a way to deconstruct capitalism to create a more regenerative future in which we're all eating quantities that are appropriate, right? We're not wasting anything, not overproducing. I understand, and I get that argument, but again,
just really step back and empathize. Put yourself in the shoes of those who might not have that privilege. Yeah. They have no other reason. When you have your cards dealt to you, you work with what you got. That's the definition of a hustler.
Yeah. I think that's the beautiful thing about what we preach on this platform, because ultimately we preach doing what works for you and whatever that looks like, right? So finding a way to search for it, figure out what type of business, what type of life that you want to create for yourself. There are people that are working overtime to figure out ways in which we can deconstruct the systems of capitalism. That's not my ministry, but I know that we probably have Aftergrads who are deeply invested, and power to you, because we need you, because I do want to find a world that doesn't find a country, the United States, I mean, that can go any which way, that doesn't rely on the systems of capitalism, because they're linked to so many negative and detrimental systems, right? So
I don't think we'll find that, but anyway.
That's a topic for another day. I really would have to think through that. You know, we haven't even had the privilege to live in a society outside of capitalism, right? It's been such a long time since a world like that has existed. Has it ever existed? I mean, and if we go way, way back, then it hasn't. But nonetheless, that's what we're at right now. Yeah. And ultimately, I think we just want to do the best that we can with what we've got and the cards that we've been dealt. And a side hustle is one way to do that.
We are about the HH, the healthy hustle.
Yes, healthy hustle. Let's put that on. Let's make that go trending. Yeah. Healthy hustle.
It's the healthy hustle.
The healthy hustle. I think that's what we promote. That's definitely what I'm promoting. We promote rest. We don't promote toxic productivity. Yes. Right? We glorify taking breaks when you need it, when your body is telling you to rest. We don't feel bad about taking those breaks. We don't feel bad or beat ourselves up when we don't maintain a routine that we outline for ourselves and for our lives.
We thank ourselves for what we have done and what not harp on what wasn't done.
We celebrate our wins, our victories. We plan for the future peacefully,
we're graciously. Truthful with people about where we're at. We don't like to put up a front or lie about where we're at, because we know ultimately the end goal will be exactly everything we hope for.
Is that the title of this episode? A Healthy Hustle?
A healthy hustle,
I think that's what this is giving.
Yeah.
Alright, so that's really it for this episode.
Talk about a healthy hustle. We just gotta stay consistent, because now it's for the long haul. We don't have summer, spring, semester, fall semester anymore. It's all one cohesive thing. It's good to be centered in the fact and to see life kind of in a school of life sense, but ultimately we have to know that this is going to happen constantly. There's no breaks anymore.
There's no breaks. Yeah. Right. And it sounds simpler than it actually is, but when you actually have the wherewithal and the knowledge of it, I think the journey is a little bit easier. So again, that's it for this episode. You know, you can follow us on Instagram at the Aftergrad Podcast.
And if you enjoyed our visual version, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can be notified of our latest releases.
Right. And we're still trying to feature y'all's stories on our platform. Please send those in whenever you have a chance. We know y'all are out there. Y'all are living your Aftergrad moment. We want to hear from it so that we can feature it on the show. You can send us those at our email address, which is theaftergradpodcast@gmail.com, or DM us on our Instagram, which is the Aftergrad Podcast.
And we can do this on the DL. We can make it on a private note.
Very anonymous.
Right. This is a safe space. If you need some extra advice outside of your friend group or outside of your circle, we are here. That's what we really want to get across to so many people. Let's expand this. Let's grow this family. And enjoy each other's company in this awkward moment.
And if you enjoyed this episode or any of our previous episodes, please, we would really appreciate a 5-star review on the show. That just helps us grow this family of Aftergrad so that more people can receive and hear our content.
Now let's get to it. We don't want to take you away from your life teens. And with that, this is the Aftergrad podcast.
We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Peace.